Rodgers only had 46 tier 1 votes in 2020, but still pretty good. I will say this. Quarterback tiers has always believed in Aaron Rodgers. Oh, yeah. Even if there was some wavering belief from the general public or from a subsect of football writers, the tiers always believed that Aaron Rodgers was as high as you could pretty much get. I believe he was tied for first in 6 of the first 7 years you did this. Last year was the first time he wasn't at least tied for first, and he was still third. And now I think last season was a vindication for the way that quarterback tier sees Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it's funny. So I had these conversations with people. I'm like, hey, look, their production, if you just look at their offense, it wasn't as good, for a couple of years there. And yet here, Rodgers now, he's a 1. And so it actually led to
It's so funny to me. But it was the same way. That's how I see it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I didn't stop there because, I don't want people just, if people are just saying he's a 1 and not looking at the games, then we're not doing a good exercise here. But that's not what people are doing. So it actually led to a series of stories for me. I really pressed one of my guys who was really adamant about this. I was like, well, let's watch some games then. You need to tell me what we're talking about, right?
That's a great response. It's a perfect way to do it.
So it came up with this concept that I did before last season. And it was the truth about Aaron Rodgers' stats. And what we did was we charted every one of his incomplete passes. And we ended up doing it for 2014, his MVP year, 2019, when people thought Aaron Rodgers isn't the same, and 2020, by the end of the year, we did it again. We went back and did it. And a missed opportunity is what we were looking for. And that means not necessarily a drop, the ball bounces off 2 hands or goes through the hands and hits the numbers, but it's a play that a pro receiver makes. Okay, so and the coach then has the nuance of, well, he slowed down his route there. Watch him here. Rodgers puts the ball right there. So it sort of fed into this idea that wasn't as the case in 2020 because his receivers played really well. But these guys were playing unusually poorly, and that was where that narrative was happening of you got to get weapons for Rodgers, which this year wasn't an issue. But we charted the number of quote unquote missed opportunities in 2019. It was unbelievable. It was like 2 or 3 times as many as in 2014 and last season. So the case was made basically that, well, yes, I think he played a little better last year. I do. I think like on some of the shorter stuff, you could see there were just sometimes he dirted balls a couple of years ago. It was like he was just a little casual maybe on the shorter stuff. I thought, not a coach. That was just what I thought watching it. But there's a million other plays where he's making the same throws. I'll give you an example. 2019, I think they're playing at Chicago early in the year. Rodgers rolls right. Guys are chasing him. And he's outside the numbers on the right side at about the 50-yard line. And he throws the ball to like the 5-yard line across the other hashes. And it just hits Jimmy Graham in the face, hits him in the hands and drops. It's one of the great throws you're ever going to see. No one can do it. It's incomplete. It hurt Rodgers' EPA. His stats weren't as good. Well, last year they're making plays for him. Those guys played great. And so what changed the most? Rodgers probably changed some. I mean, he probably played a little better, but the quarterback tiers folks would say, no, Rodgers has been fine the whole time. If you have an unusually good or bad supporting cast around you, it can change what the numbers look like and what things look like, right?
I also think that there was probably a feeling around the league that he was a little bit disengaged near the end of the McCarthy era, where I think a lot of the guys in the locker room were a little bit disengaged. And I also think that when you talk to coaches around the league about him, it's always funny talking to offensive coaches and how they see certain offenses and certain quarterbacks, because they'll talk about the Chiefs and just be like, well, we can't do that stuff. Like, there are just elements of that offense we just can't do because of what Mahomes is. And there are elements of the Packers offense, like the RPO game, for instance, right? Like, if you look at the RPO aspect of the Packers offense and compare it to the other offenses in that tree, it's completely different. The way, the control that he has, the autonomy that he has, the imprint that he has on the offense is entirely different. Guys in the league know that. When they're watching the Packers play, they see his thumbprints all over what they're doing, even if it's the Shanahan offense that Matt LaFleur brought with him. So I think that those are kind of the layers when you start talking to people that you start to understand and appreciate a little bit more and can't really understand looking at a box score.
They're absolutely, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is controlling when they're calling timeouts or the nuances of the offense. I'll give you, there's a funny one if you watch.
When they run the ball and when they don't. Like, the running game success is in part because he's deciding when to hand the ball off and when to run the ball.
Absolutely. And he's completely aware of every aspect of the game that's going on. He can manage a game better than coaches. Okay. So I'll give you an example. I think it was maybe in LaFleur's first year. I think they might have been playing Carolina at Lambeau Field. And they're off to the side with LaFleur, and LaFleur's buried in his play sheet, right? I mean, here's LaFleur. He's trying to get the right play. Well, Rodgers is watching everything. The play clock's the clock's gonna expire. So Rodgers is sitting there, he's watching coach, and then Rodgers chops the timeout. I mean, Justin Herbert's not doing that. He doesn't even know. He's not even authorized to do that. I'm not picking on Justin Herbert, but you know what I mean.
Very few people are authorized to do that, and it really speaks to the control that he has, 100%.
Absolutely, and that's why they get into these things where he can't help himself after the game on the play call when they don't go for it or whatever and fourth down. I mean, he's so smart and so in charge of all of this that he has not only his own knowledge of what to do, he has his own opinions of what we should be doing, and that's where you get the smirks and the comments.